For days now, the story of the missing Titanic submarine has dominated headlines around the clock, and it seems now that tragically the makeshift submarine has imploded and those on board have died, including, very sadly, a 19-year-old who went there to please his father from reports that are coming in, even though he was afraid to do so. But this is also all while two tragic incidents of refugees dying at sea have largely been ignored, including one ongoing right now, with people that are much easier to find because we know exactly where they are, but no one seems to care because they are poor. Seems to be the only real difference. And here's what you need to know, since I'm assuming most of you don't know about the other two disasters. The first took place on June 14th when a boat filled with refugees sank off the coast of Greece. Take a look at this video.
It's been 1 week since an overloaded fishing trawler filled with hundreds of migrants sank off the southwest coast of Greece. The vessel left port in Libya and crossed the Mediterranean before becoming disabled. It drifted for hours before capsizing. The anger, grief, and political fallout continue. Hundreds remain unaccounted for.
The Greek authorities say they'll continue a search for bodies as long as is necessary, but there's no hope of finding anyone alive. Survivors are recovering in a refugee camp near Athens. Adil Hussein, originally from Pakistan, is looking for a friend of his brother, who was also on the boat.
I don't know where my brother is. I don't know, missing. My brother left Libya last Friday, 3 days, and I can't find him. No one will tell me. As soon as he got into the boat, he said only 50 people will fit, and they were putting 750 on board. He said it's 100% sure it'll take in water.
This is a tragedy that happened last week, and the conditions on that boat were horrifying. According to leaked testimonials told by survivors to Coast Guards, Pakistanis were forced below deck, while other nationalities were allowed on top deck, where they had a far greater chance of surviving a capsize. Greece is now facing heavy criticism for its alleged role in the boat's sinking. Last week, Greek authorities denied claims that the boat had capsized after the Coast Guard attempted to tow it to shore. Authorities initially said the Coast Guard kept its distance, but their assistance, quote, had been declined after they threw a rope to the vessel to, quote, stabilize and check if it needed help. But Tarek Al-Drubi, a man who had 3 relatives on board, told CNN that they had seen Greek authorities towing the vessel with ropes, but say they were tied in the wrong places, which caused it to capsize. The other tragic incident happened just on Tuesday, 2 days ago, near the Canary Islands off the coast of Spain with a boat full of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. Spanish officials said on Wednesday, just yesterday, that the dead bodies of a child and a man had been recovered, and a Moroccan patrol boat had previously rescued 24 people on a dinghy that was sinking. Migration-focused organizations said 59 people had been on board the vessel and at least 30 were missing in the waters, and criticized Spain and Morocco for not intervening earlier. Due to a dispute over whose jurisdiction it was, a critical, horrible delay happened, yet the news would not cover it. Spain's state agency, EFE, reported that a Spanish rescue service ship, the Guardamar Calliope, was only 46 kilometers, 26 miles, only an hour's sail away from the dinghy on Tuesday evening. The Guardamar Calliope did not aid the dinghy because the operation had been taken over by the Moroccan Rescue Coordination Center in Rabat, which dispatched a patrol boat that only arrived on Wednesday morning, some 10 hours after it had been spotted by a Spanish rescue plane, FA added. Quote, it's torture to have 60 people, including 6 women and a baby, waiting for more than 12 hours for a rescue in a flimsy inflatable boat that can sink, Walking Borders Maleno said. These human beings were completely savable. Everyone knew exactly where they were. And with all respect to the tragedy today with the makeshift submarine, 30 people, if you're not good at math, is more than 5 people. Yet for some reason we care about the 5 more than the 30 that are happening at the exact same time. And again, when the 30 were much more savable due to the fact that we knew where the crash went and it was just a lack of coordinating resources to go and save these human beings.
Yeah.
Over the next 24 hours, four other boats filled with migrants were found in the Canary Islands, a route that usually from sub-Saharan Africa is notoriously dangerous.
Yeah, so look, reports are that at least 35 died there. So is there round-the-clock cable news coverage? So guys, I wanted to save those people from the submarine. The minute you show human beings, our hearts go out to them, right? Of course, and there's no reason why our hearts shouldn't go out to them. And I kept thinking about that 19-year-old the whole time. But here's an interesting guide for you guys on what the press cares about and doesn't care about. And by the way, the answer isn't to not care about those people on the submarine. The answer is to care about both, okay? But the press, cares about something when they start talking about children or showing children. And so, for example, when we wanted to bomb Syria, there was all this propaganda to bomb Syria. And look, I say propaganda in that case, the Syrian government used chemical weapons. They're terrible. The Russians that helped them are terrible. The Russian government, not the Russian people, etc. So it's not like they didn't do anything wrong. They did, but they showed the children that had been killed because of that, so that we could do the bombing. And they showed the dead children. We do the bombing. But Yemen, a conflict created by our ally, Saudi Arabia, there were thousands more children dead. But we never showed the children. So that 19-year-old breaks my heart that died on that submarine. They all do. None of them deserve that, right? But the 35 that died, that could have been saved if the boat just went one more hour. That also breaks my heart. But we got the disparate treatment in the press, and yes, it drives me crazy. But I don't think they're ever going to prioritize poor people, ever.
And of course, Cenk, we should be equally sad and equally caring about these human lives, but also just from a saving the most people perspective, if God forbid you had to choose, if you sent a boat one to save 5 or to save 30, and the boat's gonna go to a place where you know where the 30 are, 35 are, or where you don't know where the 5 are, and if you know that the one was an accident caused by people trying to better their lives, desperately trying to go and save their own lives and improve their quality of life, versus very rich people who signed waivers that said you might die multiple times on this waiver and just wanted for $250,000 each to go on a very life-risking, safety issue-riddled tourism experience to go see an old ship. If you had to quantify the tragedies, the tragedy of migrants trying to improve their lives dying is worse.
We can do both. Look, don't get me wrong. People go and decide they're gonna do tourism in North Korea, then they get captured, and then we gotta go rescue them, right? They go and decide they're gonna hike on some insane mountain they got no business on. There's an ambulance, we gotta go rescue them. But we do, because we're human beings and life matters, right? So all we're saying is, can you also do that for poor people?
Right.
And a lot more of them. And the answer we usually get is, not really. Now look, to Ben's point about they signed the waiver, I mean, this thing was put together with duct tape. This was madness going into this submarine. And look, the founder was in the submarine, he also passed away. But the founder, honestly, you look back at the quotes and I'd say he's nuts, but then almost all of our politicians also hate regulations. I mean, every Republican hates regulations. And this guy's like, oh, what do you need? Oh, there's too much regulations around submersible vehicles. Yeah, because if something goes wrong, you all die. The regulation isn't meant to hurt you, it's meant to protect your life. And when you're a knucklehead and you don't listen to that, and you convince other innocent human beings to go in that vehicle, yes, the thing that you bought off the shelf isn't gonna work, you moron. It might work once, it might work twice, but at some point, you're gonna run into an issue and you're not gonna be able to recover when you run into an issue. Because regulations aren't just, hey, does it work once? No, is it solidly built? It's the same problem we have with greedy people that make buildings that are not earthquake proof. And then all of a sudden, after earthquakes, they go, oh yeah, regulations. Yet that's the point of regulations.
Exactly, and we have more information coming in now about how makeshift and just thrown together it clearly seems to have been because of how tragically the thing imploded. Debris from the Titan submersible, including its tail cone, was found on the ocean floor on this morning, about 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic. The debris found today was, quote, consistent with catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber, close quote, in the submersible, according to Rear Admiral John Mauger of the US Coast Guard. Where the Titan submersible was found, 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic, and the size of the debris field indicates that the vessel imploded, according to Carl Hartsfield, an expert with the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. Again, a terrible tragedy, but also at least 559 people, including 22 children, died in 2022 alone in attempts to reach the Canary Islands off the coast of Spain, according to data from the UN's International Organization for Migration, and over 1,400 in the last few years. So all of these stories, as Cenk said, are tragedies, despite the media's focus only on one. And the point I think we're simply trying to make is that let's try to value all human life equally and not let the almighty dollar be what controls our attention, even when it comes to life and death issues. Our prayers are with the family and our condolences to the families of all who have lost life.
Real quick, last 2 points. Look, the media doesn't just cover rich people, to be fair. It leans in that direction super heavily. You remember in 2010 when there was the Chilean miners that were stuck in the mine. You remember the little girl that was stuck in a mine, and they did cover that, right? And those folks were not rich.
But it's only because there was not rich people missing that week. In fairness, they want stories to drag our attention and keep us hooked to this. But if all things being equal, a billionaire's life is worth to our media far more than the life of a poor Chilean miner.
They pay a lot more attention to it. And then the last thing I'll say that kind of proves that point is that look, when you talk about the 559 people that died crossing the Canary Islands and 22 kids, etc., invariably, at some points, usually a right winger will say, well, they made that choice. They made that choice to try to cross over to Europe. Yeah, but the billionaires made the choice to go in the rinky-dink submarine for no reason, just to do some sort of weirdo tourism, right? So people make choices, and as Ben said earlier, the immigrants that are coming in, they're doing it because they feel like their lives are in such bad shape, and they're trying to save their family. So they're doing it out of desperation and need to take care of their own. That is far more, let's be honest, important than doing like submarine tourism. So save them both, but let's also prioritize. Let's focus on people who are desperately trying to live. When we've got them on a boat where we know they are, please go get them. That's the reality. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, we really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.